We've all watched and admired Rory McIlroy hit the most amazing drives over the years of power and distance and accuracy. And we probably wondered to ourselves, like, how is he doing that? Where is that power coming from? How does he do it? No, go faster! So JD Golf Academy and myself got on their gear system and worked out in his backswing, how is he creating such power from a regular sized dude? Like, how's he doing it? We're going to break it down, show you the secrets for longer, straighter drives, thanks to Rory McIlroy. Remember, like the video and subscribe to the channel if you want more free golf content where we go deep diving into how on earth is Rory doing that? Where does it come from? Go faster. So Rory has a lot of textbook positions in his setup. We see hands pretty much under his chin with his arms slightly extended out, nice leaning forward spine angle, little bit of knee flex. What we do see compared to the average tour player, so the player in the blue is the average tour player, so this is a very good golfer, is we do see a slightly wider stance. So the gap between the two ankles of the players, Rory is around an inch wider than the average tour player. So he does stand with a very nice, wide, powerful stance. This makes sense as well. I mean, he's going to move aggressively. He wants a good width of stance to help him do that. Not a massive difference, but what we're going to learn as we go through this is you're going to notice Rory wins on many different categories, just over and over again, amounting to a big win overall. What we also see from Rory as well is quite a pronounced sway at the start compared to the average tour player. So if we take the club back, say, a few inches from the ball, and if we take the average tour player back just a few inches here from the golf ball, ribcage sway 0.3, pelvis sway minus 0.4. I mean, they're not swaying, they're central as they start their backswing. Rory, before and as he's starting that club, literally in the first few inches of that takeaway, ribcage sway is 1.8 away from target, pelvis sway 1.2 inches away from target. Rory is giving it the big early wind up. He's pulling off the ball. Also not afraid to put a little bit of ribcage lift in there as well. It's quite remarkable. Slightly wider stance. He's getting aggressive. Lots of amateurs definitely with driver stand a little bit too narrow with driver, which is going to create all these kind of actions. The other thing I love from Rory is very energetic from the start. So literally, he's basically going this way to this way as he starts. So he's not only going over here. So imagine throwing the ball. He's kind of like, whoa, getting ready to go. He's all this is slightly coming up as well. So he's basically, as an example, he's kind of going up here as he starts. So going this way. He's basically starting to really wind up over this side. Now, this doesn't mean he sways. He does get everything recentered, which we'll come to in the backswing. But he is giving himself a good body run-up, where lots of amateurs would be starting by just pushing this arm across their chest. Bodies often stay quite locked down. Really simple drill you can take to the range to try and get the feeling of what Rory's doing is start with the club out in front of the ball, up in the air, about 2 foot, and just pull that club back and hit the ball. If you time this, it's quite hard, but you can just put the club above the ball. I'm going to pull it across and over the top of the ball and then hit this shot. And as I do this, let pelvis open up, let shoulders open up, even a bit of pressure on lead foot to get that forward, and then just let everything close back down and shift across. Really good way of getting that pre-shift into your swing and get rid of the amateur lockdown. Amateur lockdown, this is a common move of amateurs. Slightly narrow, really nervous, lock, start with the arms. Creating no Rory-like power and accuracy. So let's move Rory and the average tour pro into their first parallel positions in backswing. And what we are going to see is an interesting idea with the sways continued. So ribcage sway now is actually starting to correct at -2. So he's actually starting to double back. We're hip sway still at nearly 2. So his hips have swayed. 1 inch with the average tour player. Again, chest hasn't really corrected itself. We also see the direction of the club, where the club is slightly behind Rory, where the average tour player, it's slightly out in front. This is kind of textbook. Rory has his tendencies, definitely always had his tendencies to get the club sitting back early. Also remember with Rory, I do think he is a good enough player and has over the years, this is an earlier capture, where he can change this. He can get this position as much as he can get this position, subject to what shape shot he wants to hit. And all golfers, great and average, we have our tendencies, and at some point you fight them, and sometimes you've got to kind of just play and make the most of them. Rory having it slightly set back, I mean, he's so functional. He could definitely work on getting out here, which I know he kind of has done a little bit more. If it makes him a better driver of the golf ball, maybe debatable. But here's the fun one. Here is the absolute beginning of mega stretch from Rory McIlroy. If we put on his measurements here, so I have basically measured from the trail, kind of top of the hip, bottom of the waist, to the butt end of the club for both of these players. Rory is stretching the butt end of his club away from his hip, right trail hip. He's 24 inches stretch. The average tour player, good at stretching, 21 inches. Wowzers. That is unbelievable. And if we look at trail elbow bend, we really start seeing some amazing numbers from Rory's stretch. So trail elbow bend, 5.6 degrees. Average tour player, 21 degrees. Their right elbow is definitely starting to fold more, where Rory is just pushing this grip away. But he isn't getting his hips to travel massively with it. Bearing in mind he's more swayed than this player as well. If his hips were centered, this stretch would be just unbelievable. So we're really starting to see the parting of stretching between the average tour player who's got great ball speed and great club head speed. You imagine if I put the average amateur on there as well, how big these numbers would be. We're comparing to some of the best in the world as well. So he is stretching wide with his backswing, really pushing back wide. Trail elbow is not actually adding bend. It's probably more bent at the start than it is here. I would guess he's around like 10-ish degrees bent at the start, then getting it to 5, so stretching that out. But at the same time, he isn't just following across with his hips. His pelvis is going that way, but 1 point something inches. It's small as he pushes away. The average tour player is staying a little bit more centered. This is starting to fold as they're picking that club up, and this is already starting to recenter. Rory is giving it an almighty stretch early on in his takeaway. And what can you take away from that? For lots of golfers, trying to make sure that you're getting your arms pushing back away from your body with some lift is a fantastic way to get more speed into your golf. Really simple takeaway test for you. So lots of golfers want to add loads of angles and bends. So set yourself into your posture, good posture with your driver. Don't be afraid to have that slightly wider stance as well. Give it the Rory stance. Now what I want you to do is just pick the club up off the ground. So pick your arms off your chest. Pick them up this way. Say 1.5 to 2 foot. Just pick that club up somewhere so it's level, say with your knees. Then from here, just rotate into your backswing and see how much more stretched or not that feels. Because basically what you're doing is adding the lift of the backswing and then the rotation. What we see from lots of golfers, they would make a backswing where they actually do this in the backswing, rotate. So you see lots of these angles. We would see this, elbow bending. This is very common as well in the backswing. Or we might even see that pick up and or hinge up. So hands not going up, club going forwards and out, and rotate where it gets out in front of them. Where with Rory, we're seeing him literally pick his arms up and he's stretching them out more, then just rotating back. And that's where he's starting to get unbelievable stretches working into that takeaway. Where's he going to go from there? So let's follow this aggressive pattern on up to the top of the backswing. And what we are definitely going to see as they move up into the top of the backswing is some rotation numbers. These are numbers I think lots of people relate to. So pelvis rotation, 42-ish degrees for Rory, 37 with the average tour player. 110 in the rib cage to 97 with the average tour player. That is an unbelievable different amount of range of movement and confidence to get that club back there. And then also you've got an X factor stretch at a difference of 69 degrees at the top to only 60 with the average tour player. Even though everything happens in such a small time, it's like a 400-meter race or like a 1,000-meter race. He just starts making gains over the average tour player at every point in his setup, in his pre-takeaway, in his takeaway, then up to the top of the backswing. When he gets there, he's already then ahead of the field. He's won before we start getting into the downswing, which we could do in another video. If you want to see that, let me know in the comments down below. Let me know if you want to see the full downswing diagnosis of Rory's swing and distance as well. But his range of movement of rotating chest and lower body and the separation between the two is world class and pushing those boundaries from, again, the average tour player who is by no means average in the realms of their movements with golf. Such an impressive amount of stretch in torso. But remember that line I drew from butt end of the club to trail kind of hip area? Look what's happening to that. This is astonishing. That stretch now for Rory, so you can see that blue line there behind, that stretch, so from his trail kind of right hippish up to the butt end of the club, is just ridiculous. So not only have we got huge range of movement from Rory, we've also got the hands back and out and stretched out. So his measurement at this point, this is so funny. Rory is 29 inches stretch, butt end of the club to the trail hip. The average tour player is 21 inches. So from here to here, this line. That means, you remember he's got loads of rotation. So he's not only a bit more this way, so up, he is out this way, which is what's stretching this. And that is so evident when we look at the bend number in his trail arm, which is just amazing. So right elbow bend, so how much he's bending that right elbow? 62 degrees, so hardly at all compared to 79 degrees of trail arm bend with the average tour player. This makes Rory's hands not only maybe a little higher, but certainly back more from him as his shoulders are rotating ridiculously. Let's put that into perspective. What I see from amateurs, if they get big rotation numbers, so let's say they get their chest turning 110, and then they get big hip range of movement as well. First thing is we don't see the separation. So we don't see this go and this hang back. We see both things over rotate, get big numbers. But also what happens for those golfers, me included, if we rotate as much as Rory is rotating, is that the arm depth and the club depth gets so unmanageable as it gets behind, because this bends way more, pushing the club back. This arm gets way further across the chest as well, giving unbelievable arm depths. So what happens for those golfers often is they do the opposite to Rory. So your average golfer watching this video, they do what we call a fake turn. So because the arm depth is so impressive, bending trail arm over 100 degrees. I mean, I've been 120 in this. Most amateurs we measure are up near that range. This arm even going across shoulders a bit more, is they want to make a more controlled backswing. They feel like they want to be in control, get the club around kind of this area. So they limit their amount of shoulder turn, because they don't want to do his shoulder turn with their arm depth. His lack of arm depth and bend in here makes him have to also then make a huge shoulder turn, because if he did a fake turn with his arm depth, so imagine he's kind of making this kind of bend in his trail arm, if he only turns his shoulders to here, he's making the most ridiculously short backswing you've ever seen with a driver. Like, it just doesn't function. His whole premise about stretching everything out as early on is allowing him to then make a more controlled arm depth movement, which starts giving us these kind of stretch numbers. You know, we're like kind of everything stretching, this out here, this across, but this holding back, of unbelievable impressive kind of figures that we see, which is why we see Rory often become and is maybe one of the best drivers of the golf ball we've ever seen. Now, if you want to improve your ideas of turn and stretch, try this drill. It works really well for giving you the concept of stretching. Set yourself up with your driver. Then what you're going to do is take your lead hand off, place the driver down to the right of you here, so it's just to my right side, and bring your hand down so it's just touching the shaft of the club. You want the club at a right angle to the ball target line. And what I want you to do is lift this club up behind you and point the club literally at the back wall here. So you're really opening up this shoulder. You're basically opening the shoulder this way. But then as the same thing, once you've done this, I want you then to coordinate it with the biggest shoulder turn you can put in. So really feel like you're pushing this back and this across. It's the opposite movement to what we see most golfers do. Most golfers want to push the elbow this way to bend it, not make much turn, and then lift, which is why we see full backswings from not much turn. I want you to feel like you're putting the club behind you as much as you can and rotate. Even rotate it where the club starts coming back towards the target. It's going to keep this elbow in. It's going to make you get more of this in your backswing. The more of this you get, the less of this you need. And then you might start getting some fuller turns while at the same time picking up that trail arm and stretching it out to hopefully start peaking some of your driving speeds and accuracy. When you actually start looking at the real numbers from Rory, it's no surprise he is impressive as he is. He is even stretching himself out against the average tour player. Now, if you want to find if your driver is going long enough, he is going to tell you how far your driver should be going, subject to your standard.